there from Pitland to St. Luke's? Oh, it just started. Great. We're looking at that example. I didn't realize it took that long. Okay, so there are 2 routes, and then 3 routes and 1 route. Do we have to go through all of these routes to get from Pitland to St. Luke's? We have options, correct? So we can take either these routes, or we can take these routes, correct? Now we can use the fundamental counting principle because we have 2 different parts of the route to get from from Pitland to St. Luke's, right? Through Queensland or Rutherford. Okay? So let's look at the top part. I have one part of a route, and I need to multiply them. Why do I need to multiply the 2 answers to those 2 routes? What word does multiplication go with? Product or and. Someone said and. So we need to take this path, one of these paths, and one of these paths to get me there, correct? Not or. Or would mean I could take one of these paths or one of these paths and get me there. So then you just kind of like evaporate in the middle and you could somehow get there. So or doesn't work, and does. So we need the and. How many paths do we have here? 2. How many paths do we have here? 3. So how many total paths is that? 6. Now, if you're ever stuck, you can actually draw the paths, right? This would be 1 path, 2, 3. Then the bottom up, 1, 2, 3. So there are 6 paths, right? I could actually physically count them. Then the bottom, from P to R, I have 3, and then I have 1. So I have 3 times 1, which is 3, which makes sense because if I counted them, that's 1, 2, 3 paths, right, that I could take. Now, do I have 18 paths total or 9? Do I add the 6 and the 3, or do I multiply them? Add. Why? What word would I use? Or. I'm going to take these 6 paths, or I'm going to take these 3 paths. Therefore, I have a total of 9 routes. If you multiplied, you'd be saying that you have to take the top roots and the bottom roots to get you there. You don't need to take the top roots and the bottom roots. You need to take the top roots or the bottom roots to get me there. So you just add them. I want you guys to try this example here. See how you do. So the first one says the telephone numbers allocated to subscribers in a rural area consist of one of the following. So the digits 3, 4, 5, digits 3, 4, 5, followed by any 3 further digits. So 0 to 9. Or means what? Add. The digit 2, followed by one of the digits 1 to 5, followed by 3 further digits. So then above we put our options. So this is one option times one option times one option times 10 times 10 times 10. This is one option, 5 options, 10 times 10 times 10. Make sure if you put it into your calculator, you have to put it in brackets if you're going to type it in all at once, because your calculator does order of operations. So it should work in some ways, but it doesn't always. So we're going to go brackets and brackets. So it's 1,000 plus 5,000, which is 6,000. Now, the example below says, consider the number of distinguishable. Distinguishable just means different looking. Not distinguishable, we pull out our Scrabble book and see if it actually makes sense. Like, we'll accept the word EEEF, FWWC. It's not a real word. It doesn't matter. But FWWC and FCWW are distinguishable different words. That's all. Okay? So distinguishable just means they have to look different. So pool, if I swap the two O's, is still pool. That wouldn't be distinguishable from each other. And I'll show you how to deal with that. So, distinguishable four-letter arrangements that can be formed from the word English. Now, they're not going to say you can't repeat, but you need to know that you can't. We have the word English. That's it. We don't have the word English with infinite number of letters of English. We have English. So we have one E, we have one N, we have one G, we have one L, one I, one S, one H. So if we use up the E is gone. We don't have a repeating E. They're not going to say without repetition. They'll say the word English, and you need to know that you have just that many, and you can use them that many times. Okay? So if we had the word mathematics, we'd have more than one A, because the word mathematics has more than one A. Okay? So it just depends on what word we're given. So we want to arrange the word English, and we want four-letter arrangements. We need to read thoroughly four-letter arrangements of English. That does not mean we're rearranging the whole word English, correct? Just four letters of it. So how many blanks are we going to have? Four. Just like when I gave you digits yesterday, I gave you like 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the digits were. And we made a four-digit word or a four-digit number. We didn't use all those digits up, correct? In this case, we have English. So we have E-N-G-L-I-S-H, just like we had 2, 3, 5, 7, whatever numbers I gave you yesterday. But we only want to use four of them. Okay? So any letter can be in any position. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many letters would we have for option for the first blank? 7. We'd have E-N-G-L-I-S-H. I'm going to show this to you. You don't have to always show the options below, but I'm just going to show it to you for this example. So we would have 7. When it's a word, we assume no repetition, correct? When we have no repetition, what did I tell you to do every single time? Yeah. Keep one there. Box one. Brooke, what do you want to keep? So we're going to keep the H here. And then we have E-N-G-L-I-S. So now I would have 6. Then what would I have? 5, and then I would have 4, and I would have to remember to multiply. So type that into your calculator. 7 times 6 times 5 times 4. Now, these are all starting at a number going down by 1. We agree? So your calculator, you can type this in another way. You can type it in as a permutation. Now, words are always permutations because I told you guys before, permutations, order matters, correct? So if you tell me that a word is not a permutation, then you're saying loop and pool mean the same thing. Do loop and pool mean the same thing? No. So the order that you arrange the letters makes different words, correct? So then order matters. If order matters in which you put something, then it's a permutation. If order doesn't matter, it's a combination. So words are always permutations. Now, I'm starting at a number, and I'm going down by 1. We agree? There's a way you can type this into your calculator using the permutation button. That's that NPR button. So it's an NPR button. It looks like this, okay? Now, this is how we do it. So we can only use this button if we start at a number and go down by 1, okay? So what number did I start with? 7. How many times did I go down by 1? 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I picked 4 letters of the 7. We agree? So this means I have 7 letters. I picked 4 of them. If I had an unlimited number of letters and I went 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 and I didn't go down by 1, I wouldn't be able to use this. Okay? You can only use this if you started a number and go down by 1. So this is a permutation of words. I have 7 letters and I'm P, permutation, so picking 4. Okay? How do I type that into my calculator? I wish I had my thing to show you. I can't pull it up right now. We're still waiting for, I have an actual calculator you can see. Nope. You're going to go 7. the number 7. Remember where I showed you where the factorial symbol was? We're going to go to that same spot. So you're going to go 7, math, arrow over to probability, and pick number 2. So we're going to press, oopsies. We're going to press the 7 button, math, because I'm pressing 7 because of the 7 here, right? Math, probability, I'm going to arrow over to probability, and then I'm going to pick number 2, which is NPR. And so I press 7 because of the 7, math this to get me NPR, to get me the P, and then what do you think I'm going to press? 4, enter. Yeah. I haven't showed you factorial. This is the problem. This is the problem with the 30-1 and 30-2 being at the exact same spot. I can't remember in 4 different classes which spot and what I've taught. It's a bit of an issue. All right. You're going to go 7, and then those buttons to get the P. And in the older calculators, it's going to say NPR, but that's fine. And then 4, enter, and you should get 840. That's a total different ballgame. Then we're going to have some. But you can always use the P when you start at a number, go down by 1, and by how many you go down by. Okay, factorial symbol, since I didn't teach it to you. Sorry about that. Thought I did. I thought it's period 4, not you. Okay, so 7 factorial. 7 factorial, we know, is the same as 7 times 5, times 6, times 5, times 4, times 3, times 2, times 1. The factorial symbol you can use whenever you started a number and go down by 1 until you get to 1. So I know 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 isn't that hard to type, right? But if I have like 20 factorial, 20 times 19 times 18 times 17, 16, 17, that takes a longer time, right? So instead of typing 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, I could just type 7 factorial. So you get that the same way. You're going to press 7, math, over to probability. But this time we're going to pick the little exclamation mark, which is number 4. Enter. So you can press 7 factorial, and you should get 5,040. So everyone should try it out. Next question, we're still doing 4-letter arrangements. We're still doing 4-letter arrangements, but the first letter must be E. So the first letter must be an E. How many E's are in the word English? 1. What if it was the word peel? Then there'd be 2. Okay, I'd actually have to put 2 because there was 2. So English has 1. Now I've left the E there. So how many letters do I have left? 6 then? 5 then? Do I go all the way down to the end? There's only 4 spaces because I only want forward. So it's going to be 6 letters left times 5 times 4, which is 120. Now remember the 654, this here, just an aside, if you don't understand this, it's okay, but I just want to extend for some people who do understand this. 654 starts at a 6 and it goes down by 1s how many times? 3 times, correct? So I could also type this, instead of going 6 times 5 times 4, they could write it as 6p3, because I started at 6 and I go down by 1 how many times? 1, 2, 3. That would also get me 120. Just an extension so that you can understand the difference. Okay, this one says the first and last letters must be vowels. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first and last letters must be vowels. How many vowels are in the word English? 2. So we can start at the first or the last, but we have to start there for sure because that's where our restrictions lie. So I can have the option of E or I here. We agree? Which is 2. But what do I have to do whenever it's a word? Yeah. You have to take one out, box one, whatever you have to do. You have to hold one there because the word you can't replace that letter. So I'm going to pretend to keep the I. And then I have an E, which is 1. And then I have N, G, L, S, H. So I have 5. And then I pretend to keep the H, let's say. Then I have N, G, L, S, which is 4. And I multiply them and I get 40. D says the word must contain a G. Does it say where the G needs to be? No, so it's a 4-letter word, has to contain a G. Yeah. Because it says it has to begin and end with a vowel, and there's only 2 vowels in the word, right? So I just started here. I could have started here. It doesn't matter. I have to begin or end with vowels. So I began with the 2 vowels, E and I, and then I pretended that I kept the I there. So now I only have the E left for the end. No, I have 2 options. I only choose one. Remember, above the line, you put how many options you have to choose, but you are only keeping one there. Yeah. So the word must contain a G. So I could start with a G, or where else could the G be? Or where else could the G be? Right. So I have to do all the cases where the G could be in the first blank and it would make a different word, right? Or the G would be in the second blank and it would make different words. Or the G would be in the third blank and it would make different words. Or the G would be in the fourth blank and it would make different words. Because it says it has to contain a G. It doesn't say where the G needs to be. If it said it must contain a G in the first blank, then I would put a G in the first blank and I would be done. So this is one of the harder examples because it says it must contain a G. So it doesn't matter where that G could be. It could be in the first blank, it could be in the second blank, it could be in the third, or it could be in the fourth. Sorry? I just didn't hear what you said.
No, that's right.
Okay.
I just don't understand, like, why can't you just place a G in there?
Because if you place the G in just one spot, then you're reading the question as must contain a G in the first blank or the second blank or the third or the fourth, and it doesn't say that. It just says the letter has to have a G in it. So the G could be in the first or the second or the third or the fourth. So if you just place it in one spot, you're not doing all the cases where G could be. So you're going to have not enough answers. Yeah.
Did you just like do it like say based on the first spot of the question? Times your answer on 4.
Absolutely. Yep. So we're going to have 1 G here, and then how many letters do we have left? 6, 5, 4. And Alex is completely correct. We're going to have 1 G here, then 6, 5, 4. So ultimately, we're going to end up with the same answer each of the 4 examples. So we could times it by 4, or we could just do this case plus this case plus this case plus this case. And we're adding the cases because we can have this word, or we could have the word with the G in the middle, or we could have a word with a G in the third blank, or we could have a G with the word in the fourth blank. So we would add the 4 cases, not multiply them. If we multiplied the 4 cases, then we could say that we could have this word and. Now you actually have 4 words, and we only want 1. So then I'd have one option of G here, 6 times 5 times 4. And then one option of G here, 6 times 5 times 4. So each of these cases is 120, because 6 times 5 times 4 is 120. So I could add 124 times, or I could just multiply it by 4, because there's 4 of them that will give you the same answer. So 480. And that's only because this one says must contain G, and it doesn't specifically say where G needs to be, that you have more than 1 case. All right? So there's a few examples we're going to work on that are just like what we just did. So there's going to be this one, Number 9 says, and then we're going to go through it, how many ways are there of getting from A to C passing through each point? So this is the answer to diagram 1. This is the answer space for diagram 2. This is the answer space for diagram 3. So it's like what we did for the first example, right? Then I'm going to have you work on these, and we're going to go through the answers after. Then I'm going to have you work through number 10. Okay? And you can also do number 11. So we're going to work on 9, 10, and 11 right now. Okay, diagram 1. Diagram 1 is actually an easier question, and sometimes I find when I give you easier questions, you do worse on them, just so you know, because you think there's got to be a trick or something. So this one literally has 5 paths to B and 3 paths to C. So we just do 5 times 3, which is 15. Diagram 2 has 2 cases. You could either take the top paths or you could take the bottom paths. So this one, if we take the top paths, we have 3 and 3. So from A to C through B1, we have 3 times 3. That's our first set of paths we could take. Or, so plus sign, we could take the 3 paths and the 2 paths passing through B2. So it'd be 3 times 2. So we'd get 9 plus 6, which is 15. Diagram 3 has 3 separate pathway systems I could take. So I could go 1, then 3. So that first path would be 1 times 3 passing through B1. Or, plus sign, I could do 2, then 1 passing through B2. So 2 times 1. Or I could do 3 times 2 passing through B3. And so I'm going to get 3 plus 2 plus 6, which is 11. And flip over. All right. The next one says, determine the number of 4-letter words. So we're going to underline that so we don't miss that. So we don't just do the entire word produce. 4-letter words. Sometimes they ask for a certain amount of the words, letters. And sometimes it's we rearrange the whole word. So you have to read. That can be formed from the letters of the word produce. Does produce have any doubling letters or tripling letters, or are they all different? All different. P-R-O-D-U-C-E. None of them double. Like pool has 2 O's, right? None of these do. So each letter can be used only once. So no matter what, for every single one of these questions in this under number 10, we're going to have 4 blanks because we're making 4-letter words. Okay. How many letters in produce do we have? 7. So we can do 7, and then we hold 1, 6, 5, 4, right? Can I write that as 7 factorial? It's not 7 factorial because it doesn't go down to 1. It has to go down to 1. So it'd have to be 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. It doesn't. I can't use 7 factorial. I could, though, because it's going down by 1, do 7 P, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. And what do we get for that? 840. Now it says each letter can only be used once. They're not going to tell you that. You need to know that whenever you get a word. I'm just being nice right now. The word contains only consonants. So consonants are not vowels. Still a 4-letter word. So I have O, U, and E as my vowels. And as my consonants, I have P, R, D, C. Okay? So I only have 4 letters I can use because this word can only contain consonants. The vowels are not allowed. So how many options do I have for the first blank? P, R, D, C. 4. Then I hold 1 there. P, R, D. 3. Then I hold 1. P, R. 2. Hold 1. P. Now, can that be written as 4 factorial? Yes, it goes down by 1 each time, and it goes all the way to the number 1. So I could type in 4 factorial, or I could type in 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which is 24. Number 2 says begin and end with a consonant. So I have to begin and end with a consonant. Are there any restrictions on the 2 middle letters? Any restrictions on the 2 middle letters? No, so I'll do them last, and they can be anything that I haven't used up to that point. So begins and ends with a consonant. So I have P, R, D, C. So I have 4. I'm going to hold the P. Then I have R, D, C, which is 3. Hold the C. Then now do I only have R and D left for the middle? Do I have R and D left for the middle? No, I have more. I have R and D, but I also still have left O, U, and E, right? Because there's no restrictions. I just can't have the P and the C because I use them. So I have R, D, O, U, and E. So I actually have 5, then 4. Which is 12 times 20, which is 240. Begins with a vowel. So the only restriction I have is it has to begin with a vowel. Is there any restrictions on the other 3 letters? No, so I need to deal with the first blank first, because I always deal with restrictions first. It has to begin with a vowel. So I have O, U, and E. So I have 3. Then I keep one of them. I'm going to pretend to keep the O. Then how many letters do I have left to do the rest of the blanks with? 6. I actually have P, R, D, C, U, and E still left. Correct? Because the only letter I used up right now is O. So I have 6 letters left for here. 5, 4. How much is that? 360. Contains the letter P. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have a P. 1, 2, 3, 4. P can be the second blank. 1, 2, 3, 4. P can be in the third blank. 1, 2, 3, 4. P can be in the fourth blank. And then I have 6, 5, 4 left for the rest, right? So I can add these all up, or I can say 120 times 4, which is the actual same answer as before. 480, not 360. Begins with a D and ends in a vowel. So begins in a D and ends in O-U-E. So begins in a D, I have 1. Now the D is used, right? Then I go to my O-U-E. I have 3 options. I'm going to pretend to keep the O. Then I have P, R, O, D, U, C, E. So I have 5 still left, correct? If you have to list the letters below to not get it wrong, list the letters below to not get it wrong. Don't be lazy and then get it wrong. That would suck. Okay, and then I'm going to keep the E, P, R, U, C, which is a 4. So 20 times 3. What do we get? And then no more left in there. No. Okay, then 11. How many different 3-digit numerals? What does 3-digit numerals mean? 3 blanks can't start with a 0. 3-digit code means 3 blanks and can start with a 0, right? Codes, you can start with a 0. Why can a 3-digit number not start with a 0? Because that is a what? Yeah. 0 has no value when you put it in front of a number. It's just sitting there faking that it's a number, but really it's still a 2-digit number then, right? In this case, if you had forgotten that, would it matter? No, they didn't even give us 0 as an option, okay? So 1, 2, 3. So I could have 1, 5, or 8, which is 3. Then it says cannot be repeated, so I keep the 1. And I have 5 and 8, which is 2. Keep the 5. I have 8, which is 1. So it's 6. How many different 3-digit odd numerals? What does odd mean, guys? Not even, true. That's just the opposite, though. That's actually not the definition of odd. What does odd mean when we have these? The last digit is odd. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. They're actually all odd. So I have 5. Keep the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. 4. Keep the 3, 5, 7, 9. 60 again. Now, what? Oh, they may be repeated. Well, that's disappointing. I need to read the question. So it's 5, 5, 5, which is 125, isn't it? Or 5 cubed. Okay. How many 4-digit, can't have a 0, odd numerals, so I can only have odd numbers back here, can be formed from 0 to 3, 7, and 9. 6, 7, 9. So 3, 7, and 9 are my only options for the back. So 3. I have to decide if it says I can repeat or I can't, right? So it says cannot be repeated. So I have to hold a number. So I'm going to keep the 3. Then I have 2, 6, 7, and 9, which is 4. I'm going to keep the 2. So I have 6, 7, and 9, which is 3. But then I'm wrong because I need to do what? Bring back the 0 because it was never used. So I have 4. Keep the 6, 7, 9, 0, 3. So what's 4 times 4 times 3 times 3? What? Thanks. I heard the 1 and then everything else just went away. Okay, do 12 and 13. We have Mr. and Mrs. McDonald want a family picture taken with their children, Hamish, Flora, and James. So that's 5 people. And how many different ways can 5 line up in a straight line for a picture? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'd have 5 options for this blank because there's no restrictions, right? Then we used to have to put a person there. 4, put a person there. 3, put a person there. 2, 1, which is 5 factorial, which is 120. The parents must be on each end. If it starts getting confusing, then list them. So we have Mr. and Mrs. We'll have M and M. So we have 2 options for this one. Make one stay there, and then M, M1, M2, I guess. M2. And then I still have the 3 kids left. 3, 2, 1. And I can't forget my multiplication dots or I'm not multiplying, which is 12. Baby James must be in the middle. 4, 5. Baby James, there you are. He's there. Now there's no restrictions on the rest, right? So how many people do I have left? 4. Then I stand one there. 3. Stand one there. 2. Stand one there. And then 1. So it's 24. And the children must alternate with the adults. The only way that can happen is if I start with children, right? So I do child 1, child 2, child 3 spot, parent 1, parent 2 spot. So I'm going to do the children first. How many children options do I have for this one? 3, then 2, then 1. And then for the parents, 2, then 1. So I could multiply these all out, or I could actually write this as the red 3, 2, 1 makes up 3 factorial, and the black 2, 1 makes up 2 factorial. So it could be written like that, or 6 times 2, 12. $13, we have 4 boys and 3 girls need to line up for a photo. Good one. Photo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many ways can this be done if the boys and girls must alternate? Well, the only way the boys and girls can alternate is if I start off with boys. So I have 4 boys. Now I only have 3 left. Then 2. Then 1. And then girls. I have 3. Then 2. Then 1. So I could just go 4 times 3 times 3 times 2 times 2 times 1 times 1. Or the blue, 3, 2, 1 is 3 factorial. And the black represents 4, 3, 2, 1, which is 4 factorial. What's the answer to that one? You just times them all out. Now, the bottom one changes. I have 4 boys and 4 girls. Some of you will start off with boys because they were all boys here. So boy, 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 boy. And then girl, girl, girl. And you give me that answer. So this would be 4, 3, 2, 1. And then this would be 4, 3, 2, 1. Which is actually 4 factorial, 4 factorial. Which a lot of you will give me that answer. You're not right. Because some of you may have started off with what instead? Girls. If I had a picture boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, and then I had a picture girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, would it look different? Yeah. So this previous one, I only had one way because I had to start off with boys because there was less girls. I couldn't start off with girls because then I would end up with 2 boys together. We agree? But in this case, I could have started off with boys or girls. So you can either add the exact same answer twice, or you could multiply by 2. Oops. So you could either add those 2 answers, or you could go 2 times 4 factorial, 4 factorial. What would the answer be? Anyone? Take your answer and times by 2 because 90% of you didn't have it. Okay, then flip over. So this one has the word product. Does product have any doubling or tripling letters? Nope. It has 7. Using only these tiles, determine the number, once again, 4 letter arrangements. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to have 7 times 6 times 5 times 4, which has always been, was that 840? We've done it like numerous times. Was it 840? Okay, and then begins with a PR. So PR. So that gives us 1 times how many letters are left? 5, because we've used up 2 letters. 5 and 4. So it's 20. Has 2 vowels in the middle. How many vowels does product even have? Just 2. So I could have O and U here, which is 2. Keep the O. And I'd have U, which is 1. How many letters have I used up? 2. O and U. So then I have 5 and 4, which is 40. Has 2 consonants in the middle. There are 5 consonants, right? I could have P, R, D, C, T. So I could have 5. Keep the T, then I have P, R, D, C, which is 4. Keep the C. How many letters have I used up? 2, right? How many do I have left? 5. So I would have 5 left for this blank, then 4 left for this one. Is that 400? One last question. In the final of a 100-meter race, there are 8 competitors. The number of possible ways to give out gold, silver, and bronze. Can a person win gold, silver, and bronze?
Yeah.
No, no matter how great they are. In this one race, you cannot win gold, silver, and bronze. You'd still only win gold. Okay, so I have 8 options for this one to win gold, then 7, then 6, or in P form I could go 8, P 3, because I'm giving out 3 awards. Either way, which answer is that? C.